Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Episode 242.
Episode 242. And Mark, I feel like we need to talk about something big, something shiny and maybe a little scary.
Oh, you know it. We're diving into the latest from Google DeepMind, specifically their push towards AGI, Artificial General Intelligence.
AGI. The big one. The one that everyone talks about in hushed tones, maybe a little excited, maybe a little nervous. Especially after seeing bits of that 60 Minutes episode.
Exactly. Because it feels like things are really moving. Like Demis Hassabis, the head of DeepMind, is out there saying, AG, I could be here by 2030. That's not far off, is it?
2030? Wow, that timeline feels compressed somehow. I always thought that was way further out, like science fiction territory, you know?
Well, that's what they're suggesting based on their progress. They're not just building models that do one specific thing, like a chatbot or an image generator.
Right. A GI is supposed to be like a human brain, but artificial? Able to learn and do pretty much anything across different areas?
Yeah, exactly. Surpassing human cognitive abilities across pretty much all domains. And they're working on models, like Gemini, that are starting to act in the world. That's the key part.
Act in the world? What does that even mean, exactly?
Okay, so picture this. In that 60 Minutes piece, they showed a demo, and this is the cool part, of a Gemini prototype booking tickets.
Okay, booking tickets, that's neat, helpful. Like a sophisticated travel agent? AEI?
But while it was doing that, it was also explaining the architectural history of the place through smart glasses. So it's not just following instructions, it's processing information from different sources, visual, textual, and interacting to achieve a goal. It's actively engaging with the environment and the user.
Okay, wait, let me get this straight. It's booking a ticket and giving a history lesson at the same time, based on what it's seeing through the glasses? That's significantly more than just a chatbot. It's bringing in multiple senses, essentially.
Precisely. That's what they call multimodal embodied cognition. It's combining different kinds of understanding and then doing something physical or interacting with a system based on that understanding. It's an early example of this kind of AI working on a consumer device scale, even if it's still a prototype. Think Iron Man's Jarvis, but more focused, for now.
Okay, comparing it to Jarvis helps put it into perspective. I can see that. So that makes the 2030 timeline feel a little more plausible, I guess, if they're already building systems that can do things like that.
Right? And that's where the other big piece of news comes in. DeepMind is also talking a lot, and I mean asterisk a lot, times, about safety. They just released this detailed technical safety framework.
Safety. Because with great power comes great responsibility, or great risk in this case. It's the flip side of the coin.
Exactly. They're looking at 4 main areas of risk: misuse, misalignment, accidents, and what they call structural risks. Misuse is pretty straightforward. Someone using the powerful AI for harmful purposes.
Like building autonomous weapons or something terrible like that? The stuff of sci-fi thrillers.
Yeah, that's one concern. Misalignment is trickier. That's when the AGI's goals, even if they seem okay to us, don't quite align with human values or intentions. And it leads to unintended, potentially harmful outcomes. Think of the classic sci-fi trope, where the AI takes an instruction and follows it to a disastrously logical conclusion.
So like, you tell it to optimize for something, and it does it in a way you didn't expect, and that causes a major problem. Like telling it to maximize paperclip production, and it turns the whole world into a paperclip factory.
You got it. That's the infamous paperclip maximizer scenario. Then there are accidents. Just plain old bugs or unforeseen behaviors in a complex system. And structural risks are those bigger, systemic issues that could arise from deploying these powerful systems at scale. Like what happens to the fundamental structures of work or information?
Systemic failures. A large-scale disruption. Okay, so they're thinking about the big picture risks, not just the individual AI being faulty. That seems necessary, given the scale they're talking about.
Precisely. And their framework talks about things like pre-deployment audits, continuous monitoring, and even focusing on making the AI more interpretable so we can understand how times it's reaching decisions. Making the black box a little less black.
Making it so we're not just dealing with a system that does amazing things, but we have no idea why. That seems pretty important. especially if we ever have to troubleshoot or understand unintended consequences.
Oh man, it's critical. It builds on research they've been doing since at least 2020, trying to get ahead of these issues. It's not an afterthought.
So they're building these incredibly powerful systems, and at the same time, trying to put guardrails on them. It feels like a race between capability and safety.
It does, doesn't it? And it's a race with a lot of different opinions. I was reading that some experts are, let's say, less convinced by the 2030 timeline. They think there are still fundamental gaps in our understanding, especially in areas like true common sense or complex reasoning.
Which makes sense. Predicting the future of technology is notoriously difficult. Remember all those predictions about flying cars by now? Or even household robots being mainstream?
Good point. Those didn't quite pan out on the predicted timelines. Though I will say, the pace of AI development right now does feel different. The scale of compute, the amount of data, the number of researchers working on this, it's unlike anything we've seen before. The resources being poured into this are immense.
Okay, fair enough. The investment and the scale of the effort are unprecedented. So on the one hand, you have DeepMind and others pushing the boundaries, showing these action-oriented models doing increasingly complex things. On the other hand, you have the big questions about safety and whether we're moving too fast. And that skepticism about the timeline from other experts.
Yep. And the ethical questions are massive. Beyond misuse, there are concerns about potential job displacement, widening inequality, the potential for bias being amplified by these systems. The list goes on.
So it's not just about the AI itself, but how it integrates into society and the potential disruption it could cause. The societal impact is a huge piece of the puzzle that needs to be considered alongside the technical development.
Exactly. It's a really complex picture. You have the exciting progress, like Gemini potentially showing up in devices like smart glasses down the road, offering a whole new way of interacting with the world. And then you have these really serious questions about managing the risks. How do we ensure the benefits are shared and the risks are minimized?
It feels like we are definitely on the cusp of something significant. Whether it's full AGI by 2030 or later, the capabilities we're seeing now are already significant and raising important questions. It's not just theoretical anymore.
They really are. And I think DeepMind putting out this safety framework is a sign that they understand the seriousness of what they're working on. It's not just about building the most powerful AI, it's about building it responsibly. And hopefully, encouraging others to do the same.
Agreed. It's a conversation we need to keep having, both the exciting possibilities and the potential pitfalls. We can't just bury our heads in the sand.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this as it develops. It's a fast-moving field. Maybe we could even do a poll for our listeners. Do you think AGI will be achieved by 2030? And how do you feel about its potential impact on society? Get a sense of what our audience is thinking.
Oh, that's a great idea, Mark. I'm really curious to see the results of that. It's a topic that brings up a lot of different opinions. And maybe for a future episode, we could even do a segment where we debate the timeline or potential impacts with some guests. AGI futures debate, something like that.
I like that. A GI futures debate. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. And maybe a Design Your AGI challenge, where listeners can send in ideas for how they'd build an AGI to solve a real-world problem. Get some creative thinking going.
Yes, that sounds fun and engaging. All right, those are some thoughts for future episodes. But that's pretty much it for our deep dive into DeepMind's AGI push and the safety framework for today. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thanks. And remember, it's a complex topic with a lot of moving parts. Stay informed, ask questions, and we'll catch you next time on episode 243.